Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy. Welcome back to Bedtime Stories. In today's video, we're going to discuss a thriller drama film released in 2025 titled No Other Choice. This film is directed by Park Chan-wook and stars Lee Byung-hun as the lead actor. The story follows a man trapped in an extreme situation, where every choice comes with heavy consequences and no decision is ever truly safe. With intense psychological pressure, deep internal conflict, and dark moral dilemmas, this film explores how a person can change when pushed to the very limits of their humanity. All right, without further ado, let's dive straight into the story. The story centers on a family man named Man-soo, who for many years lived what appeared to be a perfect life. He had a beautiful wife named Miri and two adorable children who filled their home with warmth and laughter. Their small family represented an ideal life admired by many, living in a large house, owning a luxury car, and spending peaceful moments together in their yard, surrounded by happiness.
다 잃었다.
However, as the saying goes, the wheel of life always turns. Man-soo's happiness suddenly collapsed when he was laid off from his job. After dedicating 25 years of loyal service to a paper factory, he was forced to face the bitter reality of being dismissed. What made the situation even more devastating was the fact that the paper industry was the only field he truly mastered, leaving him feeling completely lost and directionless. Still in shock and unable to accept the truth, Man-soo chose to hide his dismissal from his family.
출근 안 해? 아, 그렇지.
In reality, he was not the only one affected. Nearly all senior employees at the paper factory had been laid off as well. To help maintain the mental well-being of the former employees and prevent them from falling into depression, they began attending a group therapy session. During these meetings, they were taught a simple technique, tapping their fingers along certain nerve points while repeating positive affirmations, convincing themselves that they would soon find new jobs.
석 달 안에 재취업에 성공한다. 기분 좋다!
Time continued to pass, and 13 months later, Man-soo found himself working as a goods loader at a supermarket just to survive. In the midst of his exhausting routine, he received a phone call from an old friend who informed him about a job opening at a paper factory. Without hesitation, Man-soo immediately quit his current job, hoping to return to the field he knew best. During the job interview, Man-soo was forced to sit directly facing the reflection of sunlight from a building across the street, making it difficult for him to concentrate on answering the questions. The pressure intensified when he realized he was not the only applicant. He was competing with dozens of other candidates for the same position.
가장 저의 큰 단점입니다.
Meanwhile, with Man-soo once again unemployed and no certainty of when he would work again, Miri began taking strict cost-cutting measures. She reduced meal portions and food variety, sold items considered non-essential, and even entrusted their two pet dogs to her parents in an effort to reduce household expenses.
보면 되잖아.
The cost-cutting measures they had taken still proved to be insufficient. Miri, Man-soo's wife, eventually proposed an even more painful idea, selling their house and moving into a modest rental home. For Man-soo, the house was far more than just a place to live. It held countless memories of the life he had built with his family.
나 그거 믿고 원래 우리 이제 그것도 거의 바닥났고.
여보.
When potential buyers came to view the property, they walked through every corner of the house, including the bedroom. There, they discovered an old handgun that had belonged to Man-soo's late father, which had been displayed merely as a decorative keepsake.
우리 집 안 없어져. 아빠 약속할게.
Unable to bear the thought of losing both the house and the memories attached to it, Man-soo desperately returned to the paper factory where he had previously applied. Overwhelmed by despair, he pleaded, almost begged, the company staff to give him another chance to work. It was there that he encountered another applicant named Koi, a man who had previously treated him with disrespect. Koi appeared to have a strong chance of being hired, not only because of his connections within the company, but also because his social media lifestyle suggested that he wasn't someone truly in need of a job. he could still travel and enjoy life freely. An existence that stood in stark contrast to Mansu's desperate situation. Unable to accept the possibility that such a valuable opportunity might go to someone like Koi, Mansu began secretly following him. At one point, he even considered killing Koi by dropping a potted plant from an upper floor.
아니, 돼지지.
Fortunately, a resident appeared at the right moment and prevented the plan from unfolding. Even so, Mansu's determination had not completely faded. He continued searching for another way. Without wasting time, Mansu purchased a toy gun to replace the real handgun that had been kept in his home. He then began gathering information on all the applicants who had been interviewed by the company, carefully assessing which candidates had the greatest chance of being selected. Among them, Mansu identified 3 applicants who stood out as the most accomplished and experienced in their fields. With his goal now clear, he became determined to eliminate all 3 by any means necessary, leaving himself as the company's only remaining option. His first target was a man named Bumo, who lived in a secluded house far from the city. Bumo lived there with his wife, Ara. By coincidence, Mansu arrived at the house at the exact moment Ara was having an affair with another man. Realizing that Bumo was not home, Mansu immediately left the area, just as Bumo was on his way back. From a distance, Mansu could only watch as Bumo's heart shattered when he caught his wife in the act of infidelity. The sight stirred sympathy within Mansu, causing him to abandon his plan to kill Bumo and instead wait for another opportunity. After leaving Bumo's house, Mansu picked up Miri, who had just finished her shift at a dental clinic. There, Mansu was suddenly overwhelmed by jealousy upon learning that his wife's supervisor was a young and handsome dentist, a fact that filled his mind with anxiety and dark, negative thoughts. Unable to bear seeing his wife continue working at the clinic, Mansu felt increasingly compelled to carry out the plan he had already set in motion. That very day, he returned to Bumo's house and managed to enter without being noticed by Bumo's wife. Carrying his old handgun, Mansu intended to kill Bumo, one of the 3 strongest candidates competing for the position at the paper factory. However, the situation quickly spiraled out of control when Bumo mistakenly assumed that Mansu was the man who had been having an affair with his wife. This misunderstanding ignited a tense confrontation that soon became impossible to contain. The chaos escalated further because none of them had any real experience handling firearms. Misunderstanding, panic, recklessness, and sheer amateurism collided in a dangerously volatile situation. Unexpectedly, Ara shot her own husband, believing that Bumo could no longer satisfy her the way her lover did. Realizing that Mansu had witnessed everything, Ara immediately chased after him. Fortunately, Mansu managed to escape just in time. Later that night, Mansu was forced to return to Bumo's house to retrieve his gun. To his shock, he discovered Ara and her lover burying Bumo's body in the yard. A few days after the incident involving his first target, Mansu set his sights on the second candidate, a man named Seijo, who worked as a shoe store clerk. Unlike the other candidates, who were still financially stable, Seijo struggled to make ends meet in order to support his teenage younger sister. Learning this filled Mansu with sympathy and hesitation. However, he saw no other choice. If he wanted his job back, Seijo had to be eliminated. On a deserted road near the coast, Mansu waited for Seijo as he was heading home from work. Using the same handgun, Mansu killed him. Unbeknownst to him, however, he left behind a crucial piece of evidence, a spent bullet casing lying at the scene. Unsure of what to do next, Mansu placed Sijo's body in the trunk of his car. Around the same time, Mansu's eldest son was seen stealing a mobile phone with a friend. Their act was discovered, and they were immediately chased by the police. Mansu's son managed to escape, but his friend was caught. Back to Mansu. Upon arriving home, he immediately began digging the ground in the side yard to bury Sijo's body. The following morning, however, he was startled when Miri informed him that the police had come to their house. Believing they were there to arrest him for murder, Mansu was overcome with panic. To his surprise, the police had actually come to arrest their eldest son in connection with the theft from the previous night. Without hesitation, Mansu and Miri rushed to the police station, hoping to free their son from the legal trouble that had suddenly fallen upon him. After their eldest son was released and allowed to return home, Mansu immediately turned his attention back to Sijo's body, which still had not been properly dealt with. Confused and unsure of what to do, Mansu eventually moved the body to the backyard in an attempt to conceal the situation, coincidentally at a moment when his eldest son was sitting and hanging out on the roof. Whether the boy noticed what was happening or not, Mansu ultimately managed to bury Sijo's body in the side yard of the house. However, new trouble soon emerged when two detectives arrived, searching for clues regarding the disappearance of two job applicants from the paper factory. Instead of suspecting Mansu, the detectives actually intended to warn him about the possibility of a criminal targeting the applicants. Based on the bullet casing found at the crime scene, the detectives concluded that the perpetrator was most likely an amateur, someone committing murder for the first time. Even so, they advised Mansu to remain vigilant for his own safety.
제가 범인 잡을 때까지는 정말 조심하셔야 됩니다.
제가 사라진 대로 바로 연락드리겠습니다.
그런 일로 농담하시는 거 아니에요?
Now, only one candidate remained, Koi, a man known for his heavy drinking. Mansu went to Koi's residence carrying a bottle of whiskey, Koi's favorite drink. As they chatted casually, Mansu tried to get Koi extremely drunk to make him easier to kill. Each time he poured a drink, Mansu secretly emptied his own glass under the table. Meanwhile, back at home, Miri received a shocking confession from their eldest son. The boy revealed that the previous night, he had accidentally seen Mansu with a dead body in the backyard. Driven by suspicion, especially after noticing the swapped gun and Mansu's frequent late-night outings, Miri finally dug into the mound of soil in the side yard to confirm whether her son's story was true. At the same time, Mansu's plan began to unravel. He had underestimated Koi's tolerance for alcohol. Instead of passing out, Koi grew increasingly out of control, pulling out more drinks from the refrigerator and forcing Mansu to finish a glass of beer he had prepared. Fortunately, Mansu did not become heavily intoxicated. Koi, however, completely lost control of himself. At that moment, Mansu made his move, burying Koi's body while leaving only his head exposed. Not long after, Miri called Mansu to confirm her suspicions. Hearing that Mansu was in a remote location and catching the sound of someone groaning in the background, Miri became convinced that her husband had committed an unforgivable act.
걱정 마. 끊는다. 들어가.
여보!
After the call ended, Mansu continued what he had started, ultimately killing Koi and taking his life. As a devoted wife, Miri chose to protect her husband. She concealed the dark secret and reassured their eldest son that what he had seen the previous night was nothing more than a pig being slaughtered by his father to be used as fertilizer for the garden.
돼지 한 마리를 통째로 나무에 먹였더라고.
아, 그랬구나. 돼지.
Mansu ultimately succeeded in killing Koi, staging the crime to make it appear as though the victim had died from alcohol overdose. After making sure there was nothing left that could raise suspicion, Man-soo left Koi's body inside the house and returned home to reunite with his beloved wife.
면접 잘 봤어?
잘 잤어?
His efforts finally paid off. Man-soo was officially hired by the paper manufacturing company, having been deemed the only candidate truly competent and experienced enough for the position. He was appointed as a manager, entrusted with supervising large-scale industrial robots responsible for mass paper production. Slowly, the life that had once collapsed began to recover. Their house no longer needed to be sold. The dogs that had been entrusted to relatives were brought back home, and a sense of stability returned to the family. Meanwhile, regarding the disappearance of Bumo and Sijo, the two detectives resumed their investigation after receiving new information from Ara, Bumo's wife. Ara confessed that she was the one who killed Bumo. However, she provided false testimony, claiming that her husband had fallen into severe depression after being laid off from his previous job. She even fabricated a story about Bumo purchasing an old handgun and exhibiting increasingly irrational behavior. Based on her statement, the detectives concluded that Bumo was responsible for the murder of Sijo on the roadside. The motive seemed clear to them. Bumo had allegedly wanted to eliminate rival job applicants competing for a position at the paper factory. The detectives later approached Man-soo once again, not as a suspect, but merely to advise him to stay cautious should Bumo ever return to the city. Unexpectedly, Man-soo's cruel and calculated plan unfolded flawlessly, far beyond even the darkest outcome he had ever imagined. That day marked Man-soo's first day working as a manager at the paper factory. He was seen saying goodbye to his wife and children before leaving for work, as if everything had finally returned to normal. Indirectly, this story serves as a sharp critique of capitalism, the exploitation of human labor by systemic forces, and the erosion of moral values amid rapid technological advancement. The film explores the dangerous justification of immoral acts in the name of survival and social status, ultimately transforming a victim of the system into a perpetrator who mirrors the system's own ruthless logic. It is an ironic portrayal of a middle-class man's struggle, forced to become a monster in order to preserve his place in society. At a time when technology is steadily replacing human roles in the workforce. And that concludes our recap of the film, No Other Choice. What do you think about this film? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss more exciting movie recaps. Thank you for watching, and please take care of your health. See you in the next video with bedtime stories. Bye-bye.